Hi, everyone. I'm Vicky Essebag, and this is my wonderful friend and colleague, Tara Gretton.
Hi.
And we are here today with our 41st Power Burst. And the question we would like to ask today is, how can we be more self-compassionate and contribute to more compassionate environments?
Mhm.
So Tara and I were just talking about this, and I was thinking about Kristen Neff, who is a neuropsychologist in Canada. And the fascinating thing about Neff is that she was the first person to start collecting data about self-compassion. And so she would actually have rating scales where she would, she'd have a rating scale from disapproval to self-approval. And she would, ask questions and gather evidence and information to say, how many people are feeling approval and self-approval and disapproval, and why are they feeling this way? She would also look at, for example, how we sometimes always focus on what's not working in our lives and what we're not doing well, rather than really appreciating and celebrating what we're doing well. And so all these fantastic questions, of course, she continues to do wonderful work. Um, but it really speaks to the importance of being self-compassionate, being kinder to ourselves when we wake up every morning, and addressing what we appreciate in ourselves and addressing it throughout the day. And it's also speaking to how we need to be more cognizant of creating compassionate spaces,
Mm.
whether it's at home or whether it's at school or at work, when we're communicating with people, when we're establishing the environment, creating a safe environment, creating an environment where people value self-compassion. And I think the only way we can really do that, Tara, is to be really explicit about it
Yeah.
and to prioritize it and to talk about it.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And just as I was listening to you then, I was thinking about actually giving permission for people to be self-compassionate. And well, when we were talking earlier, weren't we? But I met with a young person who is 12, and that they were talking about how guilty they feel if they don't achieve or do certain things. And even when they then do it, they still feel like they aren't able to be kind to themselves for having done that. They're then kind of then moving on to the next thing that they need to do. And if they don't do it, they're going to feel guilty. So they feel guilty all the time. And that they're never experiencing that they're enough. And to hear a young child or a young person to talk in that way, it's just heartbreaking. And having a conversation with them about what they were hoping to be different, and they were talking about wanting to enjoy things, to experience joy. And it really sort of got me thinking about, as I'm doing this Gabor Mate, who is also based in Canada.
Yes.
Canadian people, including yourself, um, um, compassionate inquiry course. And something that Gabor says about self-compassion is it's an active, ongoing practice. And I think what you were kind of saying, that we need to talk about it. We need to model it. We need to remind people about it. We need to give permission for people to be compassionate to themselves. And, obviously instinctively, we're much more likely to think negatively about ourselves. But something that Gabor says is about reclaiming ourselves, and are really, connecting with ourselves. And we can kind of really think about how we might do that in a solution-focused way by thinking about what we're doing that's working.
Yeah.
And I think, it's like when we invite people to think in this way, they're like, oh, God, yeah, no, I don't think like that.
Yeah.
That we're not used to, that we're not modeling it, we're not encouraging that focus on what we're doing well.
Yes. We have a tendency to be more focused on the mistakes that we make, and we're hard on ourselves when we make a mistake, when really we can be looking at what we learned from that mistake, what we contributed to, for example, a job interview. We go to a job interview. Maybe it didn't go so well. We walk away from it. Maybe we didn't get the job, but what went well in the interview? What did we contribute to the interview? What did we get out of the interview? There's so much that we do that works. And I say the same thing to parents, right? When a child comes home from school, rather than to say to them, how did you do on the exam? What did you get on the test? But to say to them, what did you learn from it? That message, what that message says to the young person is it's the learning from the experience that is valuable.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate that. We don't want to necessarily focus on how we did because maybe we didn't do that great, but that's not what, the key is what did we learn that we could take to the next similar experience? And we have the ability to do that. And that is where we turn to self compassion to say, we have the ability and the awareness to be able to notice the very valuable things that we do, and not just the things that we do, but the persons that we are.
Yeah.
Right? We don't have to do things or accomplish things to be valuable. We can just celebrate ourselves because we are unique individuals that live in this world, and and that could be it.
Yeah.
So yeah, self-compassion is it is something that I do agree with you, Tara. It is something that we model, and you not only do we need to alert ourselves to that on a daily basis, but we need to alert others to it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, who kind of came to mind when you were describing that, what we're learning and what we're doing, made me think about Carol Dweck's growth mindset,
Yes, exactly.
rather than that fixed mindset. And
Exactly.
that growth mindset is about the process.
Yes.
And I think when we focus, as you just sort of beautifully described, on what we've done and what we might have learned, and it's all those tiny, tiny, tiny details of
Yes.
the small stuff.
Yes.
It's just what we can achieve in a morning, getting ready to go out, getting to work or getting to school, or navigating, juggling all the different things. It's like, wow, that being able to notice those things is really being compassionate, isn't it?
Yes.
If things
Yes,
don't completely go to plan, it's like, wow, if I look at all of the things that I managed to do today.
that's right. That's right. It's what worked today. So even if we've had just a really hairy day, sometimes we just have those days where we think this was just awful, just one thing after another went wrong. But what what went right?
Yeah.
And those tiny little things that you're talking about, Tara, that we can hone in on that we can take the microscope to it and say, oh, yeah, there was that little conversation. Wasn't that a valuable conversation? Or I managed to remember this time not to forget my keys you know, where I had to go back and get them. So I remembered to do that, or, you know, just tiny little things, but we do valuable things all day. And so it's important to reflect on that if we can.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm just laughing to myself because I'm often late, and I do, when I manage to get, you know, and it's something that I continually work on, but if I manage to get there 2 minutes late, I'm like, yes, I'm only 2 minutes late.
Yes,
What did I
exactly.
do that helps me? I'm getting closer.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And thank you, everybody, for listening, and take care. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.